Folks always say life doesn't just blow up in one big bang, it's more like it falls apart piece by piece, with tiny fractures sneaking in way before you spot them. But I'm telling you, my whole dang world came crashing down with a single line she dropped. There Jessica was, fiddling with the sleeve of her dress by the doorway, a little grin playing on her lips. She looked gorgeous, like she always did back when we'd head out together, only this time, I wasn't the guy waiting to share a meal with her. "I'm off to a date now," she tossed out, real easy-like, as if she was just popping to the store for milk. "Try not to get too jealous, huh?" At first, my brain flat out refused to catch up. I just gawked at her, scanning her face for any hint this was some messed up prank, but nope, she scooped up her purse, gave herself a quick once-over in the mirror, cool as a cucumber, like she hadn't just yanked the rug out from under our marriage with that handful of words. Part of me wanted to bust out laughing and say, "A date with who, Jess? I mean, what kind of wife drops that on her husband like it's nothing?" But my tongue stayed glued, my hands, planted on the counter, went all tingly and numb. "What?" I finally croaked out, barely louder than a whisper. She spun around, letting out this sigh like I was the one making things tough. "Look, I met a guy, all right. Been seeing him for a bit, and I didn't want to keep it hush-hush from you, figured being straight up was the way to go. You're always big on honesty, aren't you?" She had the nerve to eyeball me like I ought to pat her on the back, like she was doing me a solid by shredding my heart with that breezy tone. My gut twisted up tight, and my fingers balled into fists against the chilly granite countertop. She's gotta be kidding, there's no way she's serious. Except she was. She was already sliding her heels on, humming a little tune like it was any old Saturday night, like she hadn't just confessed to months of sneaky lies and backstabbing. Something inside me broke loose. "So you think I'm just gonna sit here twiddling my thumbs while you," I started, my voice wobbling with shock. She just shrugged. "I don't get why you're worked up. I still love you, you know. I do. I'm craving something fresh for once." She cocked her head a bit. "You get it, right? Get it? Get it?" I flashed back to those late nights I'd burned the midnight oil at work to bankroll that trip she'd begged for, the birthdays I'd spent plotting surprises just to light up her face, the times I'd held her tight when she was bawling over stuff I couldn't even wrap my head around, but I never pushed, just stood by her, every single time. And now she's after something fresh. I couldn't catch my breath, the room started closing in, the air thick and smothering. I wanted to holler, chuck something across the room, grab her shoulders and demand she spell it out, but all I did was stand there, my pulse hammering in my ears, staring at the woman I'd poured my whole self into as she touched up her lipstick before stepping out to meet some other dude. I didn't even recognize her anymore. And right then, I knew I couldn't let this roll off my back. I wasn't about to yell or grovel, no way. But I sure as hell wasn't gonna let her saunter out thinking she could smash me to bits and I'd just take it lying down. She wanted a new adventure. Well, she was in for one, 'cause if she figured I'd just kick back like some chump waiting for her to waltz back in, she had another thing coming. I watched her stroll out that door like she was headed to grab a burger with pals, not stabbing me, the guy who'd handed her everything, in the back. Her heels clacked on the floor, each step scraping at my brain like a rusty nail. I half expected her to pause, maybe throw a glance my way as she left me standing there, but nah, she didn't even flinch. Not a single look back. The door clicked shut behind her. Dead quiet. I stayed rooted there, clutching the counter's edge so hard my knuckles went ghost white. My heart was thudding loud enough to drown out everything else, my stomach churned so bad I thought I might hurl. Every inch of me was screaming to bolt after her, to make her explain, to shout, to plead, to do anything. But I didn't budge. I just stood there, stuck, sinking in a flood of feelings I couldn't even pin down. Anger? Oh, you bet. Betrayal? No question. Humiliation? That one cut the deepest. She'd stood right there in our house, and told me she was stepping out with another guy like it was no big deal, like I was supposed to nod along and say, "Sure, hon, have fun." I spun away from that door, my head spinning like a top. She really thinks she can just strut off like that. It wasn't even the cheating that got me most, it was how she didn't even blink, how she dropped it with that smug little smirk, like she thought it was cute and I'd just nod along. I let out a sharp, sour laugh. Oh, I got it all right. I saw clear as day that I'd sunk 9 years into a woman who never gave a damn about me, a gal who treated me like some cozy fallback, a plan B, a sucker who'd stick around no matter what she pulled. She figured I'd wait it out. She honestly believed she could skip off, have her fling, then stroll back to me when she got bored. Nope. Not happening. I snatched my phone up, hands trembling as I flicked through my contacts. I needed to hash this out with someone, and there was only one guy for the job. "Yo, dude," came the voice I knew so well after 2 rings, "Chris, my best bud since our college days." If anyone could cool the fire raging in my chest, it was him. "She's gone," I rasped out, throat all scratched up. A beat of quiet hung there. "Gone how?" He pressed. She looked right at me and, I choked down a lump, still half convinced I'd dreamed it. She said she's heading out on a date. Acted like it was no big deal. I could hear him suck in a breath. No way. She didn't really say that. I barked out a dry chuckle. Like she was chatting about her sandwich or something. A long stretch of silence followed, then he hit me with, "What's your next move?" That was the $1,000,000 question, wasn't it? What now? I could ring her up, yell my lungs out, beg for answers. I could grovel and try to claw the marriage back like some sad sap who didn't see he'd already been beat. Or I could flip the script so hard that when she swaggered back expecting me to be her doormat, she'd find her whole world turned inside out. I sucked in a deep breath, my shaky hand steadying up. "I need a hand," I told him. Chris didn't skip a beat. "Just say it." I glanced around the house, this place she thought she could use like some pit stop while she played around with another guy. Not anymore, it wasn't her safety net now. "Swing by in 30, I said, then hung up and jumped into action. First thing, I yanked a suitcase off the shelf. I wasn't the one bailing, she'd already taken that role, but I'd make damn sure her stuff was ready to roll when she showed her face again. I hit her closet hard, dresses, shoes, all that junk she'd splurged on with our cash, crammed into the bag like it was trash, 'cause that's what it meant to me now. I was halfway done when Chris rolled up. "Whoa, damn," he muttered, stepping in and eyeing the chaos. "You're serious about this?" I zipped that suitcase shut with a hard yank. She doesn't get to stomp all over me and think everything stays peachy. Chris raked a hand through his hair, still wrapping his head around it. I always knew she was full of herself, but this is wild. I gritted my teeth. I'm through being her safety net. He gave a slow nod, then flicked his eyes toward the living room. "What's the next step?" I'd already clocked it. "Help me swap out the locks." Chris let out a low whistle. "Well, hell." I locked eyes with him, my face set like stone. She pranced out thinking I'd just sit here twiddling my thumbs till she felt like coming back. I folded my arms tight. I want her to walk in and see she just screwed herself big time. Chris dipped his head in agreement. "All right, man. Let's get it done." 2 hours later, the locks were new, her crap was boxed up, and I was parked on the couch with a beer in hand, waiting it out. I didn't bother texting or calling her. Let her think it's all smooth sailing, that she could breeze back in and pick up where she left off. She had no clue what I'd cooked up. When she finally dragged herself through that door, she'd be hit with a wake-up call she'd never forget. I sat there, soaking it in. The house felt off now, quieter, emptier, but kind of freeing too. It wasn't just where I crashed anymore, it was where I'd drawn a big fat line in the sand. No more getting walked over. No more playing the idiot while my wife flounced around with some other guy, assuming I'd be here with a dumb grin when she got back. The clock ticked on, 10:45 p.m., then 11:15, then 11:30. She was running late. I wondered if she even bothered checking the time, or if she was too caught up giggling in his ride, sipping wine at some swanky spot, or wherever she thought she could chase her new thing, without a care. A weird calm washed over me. I'd spent hours boiling mad, feeling like my life was caving in, but now it was crystal clear. She was about to get the shock she never saw coming. I caught the sound of a car door banging shut outside, followed by the sharp tap of heels hitting the pavement. I didn't budge from the couch. The doorknob jiggled once, then again, harder this time, like she was ticked off already. A quiet stretch hung in the air, then, bam, bam, bam. What the hell? Jessica's voice sliced through the dark. I let that moment simmer, soaking it in, before I finally hauled myself up, strolled to the door, and cracked it open, not to welcome her in, just enough to plant myself in the gap, blocking her way. She looked up at me, irritation splashed all over her face. Her makeup was still perfect, but there was this little smear of lipstick at the corner of her mouth, lipstick she hadn't worn for me. She peeked past me, her forehead creasing. Why's my key not working? I crossed my arms tight. 'Cause I swapped out the locks. Her jaw dropped a bit, her eyes darted over my face, probably checking if I was pulling her leg. You changed the locks. I didn't even twitch. Yup. She let out this airy little laugh, like she couldn't wrap her head around it. Come on, hon, you're taking this too far. Let me in. I just stood there, stone still. Why should I? That threw her, she blinked hard, caught off guard. What do you mean why? I leaned against the frame, keeping my tone cool as a breeze. Why would I let you back in? You sashayed out of here to go on a date with some other guy. Didn't ask me, didn't talk it over, you just laid it out like I'm some sidekick in your story who doesn't get a vote. I tilted my head a little. So, Jessica, give me one good reason I should step aside. She huffed, shifting her stance. Oh, come on, don't be so over the top. It was just a date. You're turning this into some huge thing it's not. Something twisted up in my chest, but I kept my face blank. She still didn't see it. I nodded toward the suitcase parked just behind me, right by the door. Your stuff's all packed up. Grab it and go. Her gaze flicked to the bag, then snapped back to me. You're joking. I didn't move an inch. She let out this shaky laugh. Babe, seriously, it was one night out. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I breathed out slow, staring at her like she was someone I didn't even know anymore, 'cause honestly, she was. You really don't get it, huh? My voice stayed level, but it had an icy edge. You strutted out thinking I'd just sit here twiddling my thumbs, that you could go test drive something fresh and waltz back in like I'd be waiting with a big ol' hug. I stepped closer, and for the first time that night, I caught a flicker of doubt in her eyes. I shook my head. That's not how it goes, Jessica. You wanted freedom. You've got it. But it's a one-way ticket, you don't get to stroll back through this door. She swallowed hard, her face twitching a little. I thought you were all about honesty. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Honesty? That wasn't honesty. That was you shoving it in my face. That was you making damn sure I knew I wasn't cutting it for you, that you were chasing something shinier. I crossed my arms again. So go chase it. But don't think you can crawl back to me when it flops. For the first time that night, she looked rattled. You can't mean this. You're just mad. Oh, I'm mad as hell, I cut in, but I'm also done. I stepped back inside, grabbed her suitcase, and plunked it down outside the door without a word. "This is nuts," she muttered, her voice wobbling. "No," I said, meeting her stare head-on, "what's nuts is you thinking you could pull this stunt and still have a cozy spot waiting here." She stood there, gawking at me, waiting for me to fold. But I didn't budge. For the first time in all the years we'd been together, I saw it hit her, this wasn't the response she'd banked on. She thought she was calling the shots, setting the rules. She'd miscalculated big time. Her eyes flicked to the suitcase again, like she was weighing whether to grab it. I didn't say another word, I didn't have to. The door clicked shut between us, locking her out, not just from the house, but from everything I'd been to her. And that? That was just the start. The second that door closed, a weird quiet settled over the place. Not a hollow, lonely kind of hush, but a clean, calm one, like the sound of something wrapping up that should have been over ages ago. I stood there a minute, hands still clamped on the knob, just listening. At first, it was dead silent. Then, after a few beats, I heard her huff out a sharp breath, followed by a rustle, then a pissed-off stomp on the porch. Good. Let her stew in it. Let her chew on the fact that the guy she thought would always be her fallback, the chump she figured would hang around no matter how she played me, had just slammed the door right in her face. Then it came, right on cue, bang, bang, bang. "Are you for real right now?" Jessica hollered from the other side. I leaned against the wall by the door, arms crossed, not saying a word. I let her voice just float there, let her listen to her own nonsense. "You're seriously tossing me out after all we've been through," she went on, her tone dripping with shock, like she couldn't believe I'd dare push back after she'd stomped all over me. I kept my mouth shut. She hammered the door again, louder this time. "I didn't even do anything wrong. It was just a date. I didn't sleep with the guy or nothing." That one got a short, dark laugh out of me, barely audible. "Oh, so that's her bar now. No sex means no betrayal. That's what we're working with." Still, I didn't bite. I wanted to see how long it'd take her to start spinning a new tale. Sure enough, after a quiet minute, she switched gears, her voice softening up. "Come on, babe, you're blowing this way out of proportion." There it was, the backtrack, the smooth talking, the scramble to flip it so I looked like the nutcase. I shook my head to myself. She still didn't have a clue. A pause hung there, then a sigh, she was trying a new angle. "You're really ready to ditch everything we made together over one little night?" Oh, now she's all about what we made. Now she wants to drag our marriage into it, our past, trying to guilt me into caving. I finally piped up, voice steady as a rock. "You chucked it all the moment you told me about your date." I could almost feel her tense up through the door. "That's not right," she snapped back quick. I let out a slow breath, rubbing the bridge of my nose. "Being upfront doesn't give you a free shot to stab me in the back, Jessica. You don't get to slug me and then say, 'Hey, at least I gave you a heads up.'" Dead quiet. For once, she didn't have a snappy comeback. I shoved off the wall and twisted the deadbolt, locking in my choice. "Your stuff's out there. Take it and go." Then I turned and walked off. She yelled something, I didn't catch it, didn't care. I plopped onto the couch in the living room and flicked on the TV, not 'cause I gave a rip about the screen, but to make it clear, I'm done waiting on you. A few minutes later, I heard the suitcase wheels scraping down the sidewalk. Then, at last, silence, real silence this time. The kind that sticks. The morning after, a fresh start. When I rolled out of bed the next morning, I braced myself to feel hollow, to feel that gnawing regret or the heavy drop in my gut that hits when you know you've screwed up big. But nah, none of that showed up. Instead, I felt something I hadn't in forever, relief, pure and simple. I stretched out, took a good look around the house. Same old place, same couch, same walls I'd been staring at for years, but it hit different now, lighter, sharper, like a big rain had blown through and left everything crisp. No more tiptoeing around. No more walking in the door wondering if my wife was quietly hating me or already sneaking around with some guy. No more faking it. For the first time in a long stretch, I could actually breathe easy. Then, like the universe wanted to toss me a bonus, my phone buzzed. Chris, texting me. Man, you gotta see Jessica's socials ASAP. I raised an eyebrow, curious. I pulled up Instagram, fingers moving on autopilot. Didn't take long to spot it, bam, right at the top, her latest post. A selfie, eyes all teary, captioned, "I don't get how it all crashed so quick. I thought we had the real deal. Never wanted to hurt anybody. Oh, give me a break." I let out a dry snort. She's pulling the victim card, of course she is. No way she'd cop to walking out on our marriage, to looking me dead in the eye and saying she's off on a date, to figuring I just roll with it. Nah, that'd mess up her story. Instead, she's playing the sad, mixed-up gal who can't figure out where it all went sideways. I wasn't even pissed anymore, just over it. I closed the app, chucked my phone on the table, and headed for the kitchen. She can post whatever sob story she wants. I don't need to prove a damn thing, 'cause when it's all said and done, she's the one who tossed a good thing in the trash. She thought she could have it all, her little fling and me waiting at home. Now she's stuck with the fallout. Me. I'm finally free. That first gulp of coffee hit me like a taste of liberty, dark, bold, and just what the doctor ordered. I stood there by the kitchen window, eyeballing the world outside as the morning sun splashed everything in this warm, golden light. A whole new day. A clean slate. But life? It's never gonna let me kick back and enjoy it that simple. My phone buzzed again, another text from Chris. Man, she's losing it now. Peek at Facebook. I let out a sigh, already guessing what I'd stumble into. Jessica wasn't the kind to fade out quietly. Sure, I'd thrown her off her game last night, but now she was rallying, rewriting the script, painting herself as the sweet, wronged little victim. I pulled up Facebook, scrolled for a hot second, and bam, there it was, a big, weepy post. It's wild how you can spend years with someone, and then one night they just decide you're nothing to them. I always figured love meant getting each other, growing side by side, embracing what we both need. Guess I got that wrong. Some folks can't deal with the truth. I busted out laughing right there. The truth? That's her spin on it. She'd looked me square in the eye and said she was off to date another dude, and now she's flipping it like I'm the one who ditched her. I slid down to the comments, that's where the good stuff was hiding. Her buddies, the ones who didn't know the whole deal, were tripping over themselves to prop her up. Oh my gosh, what went down? You deserve way better, hun. If he can't handle your realness, he's not worth it. Some guys are just too fragile. You'll snag someone who gets you. I rolled my eyes so hard I almost saw my brain. Yeah, 'cause getting her obviously means letting her trample her husband while she's out chasing other guys. Then, bam, a comment from someone in the know. Hold up, didn't you straight up tell him you were dating some other guy and then get pissed when he didn't sit there waiting? I grinned. There we go. The tide started shifting, folks were asking for the juicy details, others weren't so quick to pile on the hugs and tears. Some even wondered why she was shocked I packed her bags and showed her the door. And Jessica? Radio silence. Naturally. She'd banked on a big sympathy parade, a sob fest in her honor. Instead, people were poking holes, backing her into a tight spot, making her face the mess she'd dodged so hard. I shut the app, chucked my phone on the counter, and shrugged. She can blast whatever she wants online. Doesn't rewrite the truth. She walked out, I locked up. Case closed. A visit I didn't see coming. By the afternoon, I'd quit messing with social media. No way was I burning my day watching Jessica scramble to polish her halo. I had better plans, like finally soaking in the calm of my own place without dodging landmines. But calm? Yeah, that didn't stick around long. Around 3 p.m., the doorbell chimed. I wasn't expecting a soul. Chris would have shot me a heads up if he was swinging by. Maybe a delivery? I ambled to the door, peeked through the hole, and there she was, Jessica, standing out there in a plain sweater and jeans, arms folded tight, looking like sleep had skipped her entirely. I almost left it shut, but I swung it open anyway. Not 'cause I was itching to chat, not 'cause I'd let her waltz back in, but 'cause I wanted her to clock the look in my eyes. I nudged the door open just enough to lean against the frame. "What's up, Jessica?" I asked, keeping it flat. Her lips parted, like she'd figured I'd roll out the welcome mat. "Can we chat?" she said. I didn't budge. "We covered that last night." She sighed, tucking her hair back. "Can't I at least step inside?" I let out a quick, dry laugh. "Nope." That threw her, her eyes tightened a bit. "Quit acting like a kid," she shot back. "A kid?" I crossed my arms. "You're out here begging to waltz back into the house you ditched to go date some other guy, and I'm the kid?" Her jaw locked up tight. "You're being absurd," she said. "Am I now?" I cocked my head. "Tell me, Jessica, what did you picture happening? You'd stroll in, we'd sip coffee, and I'd act like you didn't just pull that stunt." She swallowed hard, and for the first time, I caught a flicker in her face, uncertainty, second-guessing, maybe even a hint she'd misread me. She'd honestly thought I was bluffing, that this was some short-lived huff I'd get over. But I wasn't messing around. "You picked your path," I said, voice steady as a rock. "Now you gotta walk it." She huffed, shaking her head. "I don't get why you're torching everything over one slip-up." I raised an eyebrow. "Torching it? I'm not the one who turned our marriage into some free-for-all playground." Her eyes dropped for a split second. "I just wanted a change," she mumbled. My gut twisted. "Then you should have bailed clean before pulling this, Jessica, before you made me the chump you thought would just eat it." She blinked fast. "So that's that?" "Yup." Quiet hung between us. She looked lost for once, not used to me standing firm, not folding, not scrambling to patch things up like I always had. I stepped back inside. "See ya, Jessica." I shut the door, and this time I knew it was staying closed. When that lock clicked, I didn't waver. No second thoughts, no urge to peek back, no wondering if I'd screwed up. I hadn't. Jessica made her call the moment she decided our marriage was her personal sandbox, where she could poke around, test the waters, do whatever struck her fancy while I sat there like a dope, waiting for her to finish chasing her, something different. Not anymore. I snagged my phone and glanced at the time, 3:27 p.m. Figured that was the end of it. She'd slink off, pout, maybe ring up a pal to twist the tale, till it soothed her. Maybe she'd run to him, that guy she'd gambled it all for, hoping he'd pick up where I left off. But just when I thought her drama was done, my phone buzzed again, Chris, with a text, "Man, call me now." My stomach did a little flip. Chris was chill, the kind to crack a joke even when stuff hit the fan. A message like that? Bad news. I hit dial right away. He picked up fast. "Dude, you won't believe this crap," he said. I sighed, rubbing my nose. "At this point, hit me." A beat passed, then his voice dropped low. "That date last night? It wasn't Jessica's first rodeo with him." I froze. "What are you saying?" "She's been messing with this guy for months." My jaw clamped shut. "You dead sure?" "Got proof, bro," he said, all serious now. "Texts, pics, someone spotted them weeks back, hand in hand, ducking off to his car. This ain't a one-off. She's been stringing you along." I didn't twitch, didn't blink, didn't even breathe. Don't know why that news slammed me so hard. Should have seen it from a mile away. Someone who could skip out that easy, that breezy, had probably checked out way before she said a word. But hearing it solid like that stung different. "Who's the guy?" I asked, voice quiet but firm. Chris let out a breath. "You sure you wanna know?" "Yeah." A pause, then, "That dude from her office." "Justin." I shut my eyes. Of course it was. Justin, the one she'd name-dropped here and there, the funny work buddy, the guy with cool takes on stuff, the one she'd stuck up for whenever I'd teased about his late-night texts. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't just the backstabbing, it was knowing I'd been played, every smile she tossed me, every laugh at my dumb jokes, every goodnight kiss was a lie while she was already gone. I heard Chris shuffle on his end. "You good, man?" I opened my eyes. "Yeah," I said, voice hard as nails. "Send me what you've got." "Already did." I checked my texts. Yup, a pile of screenshots flooded in, her chats with Justin, pics of them cozying up, one at a bar with his arms slung around her waist, her leaning into him like I'd never existed, like our marriage was some old news she'd tossed out. I stared at the screen, something deep in me twisting, not just rage, not just hurt, but a clear, cold light. I finally got it, this wasn't one dumb move, this was her all along. By the time I peeled my eyes off my phone, dusk was creeping in outside. I'd been parked on the couch for over an hour, flipping through all that damning proof, piecing together the truth about my marriage I'd been too blind to catch. The deeper I dug, the clearer it got. Jessica never thought she'd lose me for real. She figured I'd grovel, chase her down, prove I was still worth her time even after she'd already checked out. But I was done dancing to her tune. I yanked my laptop over and fired up a fresh tab. First thing, get a lawyer. I hunted down a divorce pro, someone with killer reviews, a shark who knew how to handle cheating cases. 10 minutes later, I'd locked in a meeting for the next morning. Next up, the money. I jumped into our joint accounts. She hadn't siphoned anything yet, but I wasn't risking it. I shoveled my paycheck into a new account, just mine, and flagged the savings, scribbling down every move she'd made with it lately. Third step, lock this place down. I'd been a fool, her grabbing that suitcase didn't mean she wouldn't slink back. I rang up my security folks and beefed things up, cameras out front and back, pinged straight to my phone. When I finished, something clicked in me, control, the kind I hadn't felt in ages. This was my show now, my calls, my road ahead. Jessica. She'd turned into a tough lesson I'd learned the hard way. The message that nailed it. Right as I snapped my laptop shut, my phone hummed, a text from Jessica. I let out a slow breath and opened it. "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at those words. No, sorry, no hint of guilt, just, "Can we talk," like she thought she could patch this up with a snap. I smirked, then tapped out my answer nice and slow, "Already did." Then, for the first time since this whole mess exploded, I blocked her number. Next morning, I woke up to something rare, calm. No tight knot in my chest, no nagging worry about what Jessica was sneaking around doing, no heavy hush in the house packed with lies and unspoken garbage, just peace. I stretched out, climbed out of bed, and rolled through my routine, brewed some coffee, banged out a quick workout, hit the shower. It all felt regular, like I'd ditched some ghost weight that had been grinding me down for years. But life's never gonna let me coast too long. At 9:37 a.m., my phone lit up, unknown number. I almost blew it off, but something nagged me to pick up. I swiped it. "Yeah, who's this?" A quiet beat, then, "Hey, it's Jessica." I sighed, squeezing my coffee mug a tad harder. "Didn't waste time grabbing a new number, huh?" She huffed sharp. "You blocked me." "Damn right I did," I said, sipping my brew. "What's this about?" A pause stretched out, then, I think we need to talk. I chuckled low. We've been there. She brushed that off. Can we do this face to face? I scrunched my brow. For what? Another hush, then softer, 'cause I wanna explain. My jaw tightened, fighting the itch to snap. Explain what? I had all the answers I needed, those texts, those pics, the breezy way she'd strutted out like it was nothing. But then it hit me, she didn't know I had the dirt. She thought I was still clueless, stuck on just that one date she'd fessed up to. She was probably gearing up to twist the tail again. I leaned back in my chair, weighing it out. I could cut her off, hang up, walk away for good. But part of me itched to see her squirm when she figured out she wasn't running this anymore. I made up my mind. All right, I said. Let's meet. We picked a quiet little cafe downtown, neutral turf, out in the open, a spot where I knew she couldn't kick up a big scene. I beat her there, grabbed a black coffee, and parked myself by the window, watching folks shuffle by outside. Then, right at 10:15 a.m., Jessica rolled in. She didn't look like her usual self, not some big, flashy change, but something quieter. Her hair was yanked back, no trace of that fancy makeup she always caked on. She seemed smaller somehow, not in size, but like her choices were finally weighing her down. She clocked me, paused for a beat, then headed over. Hey, she said, easing into the chair across from me. I didn't bite, just raised an eyebrow and waited. She squirmed a bit, tracing her finger along her cup's rim. I don't even know how to kick this off, she mumbled. How about you try the truth for once? I said, keeping my tone steady but sharp. She gulped. I didn't mean to mess you up. I let out a quick, bitter chuckle. Oh yeah? 'Cause you sure didn't seem too torn up about it while you were primping for your date. Her face stiffened. It wasn't what you think. No. I cocked my head. Then spell it out for me, Jessica, what was it? She sucked in a big breath, like she was gearing up for some Oscar-worthy monologue. I felt trapped, she said. Like our marriage was just this dull loop. I was losing who I am. Then Justin showed up, and I threw up a hand. Hold it. She blinked hard. What? I already know the score. I whipped out my phone, tapped it awake, and slid it across the table. There it was, plain as daylight, a pic from Chris, her and Justin, cozy as hell, his arm looped around her waist, her leaning into him like I was ancient history. The color drained from her cheeks. Where'd you? Doesn't matter, I cut her off. What counts is you've been feeding me lies for months. This wasn't about feeling stuck or hunting for a thrill. You picked this. Over and over. Now you've got to deal with it. She stared down at the table, clutching her coffee mug like it was her lifeline. She started, then clammed up. I was gonna come clean, she finally said. I sighed. Jessica, you're only here 'cause you lost the reins. If I'd groveled, if I'd let you back in, you'd have kept this buried forever. Her silence said it all, I'd hit the nail square. I leaned in a hair. Answer me this, Jessica. If I hadn't swapped the locks, hadn't boxed up your stuff, would you have still gone out with him that night? She swallowed, throat bobbing. I waited, eyes on her. Her gaze darted off. I don't know, she muttered. I leaned back. Then we're finished. She snapped her head up, something shifting in her face. That's it? Yup, I said, plain and simple. That's it. She gawked at me, scanning my expression for a crack. I saw it sinking in, the dawning that I wasn't buckling this time. I stood, pocketed my phone, and tossed a couple bucks on the table for my coffee. Then I gave her one last look. Hope you track down whatever you're after, Jessica, I said. But it ain't gonna be with me. I turned and walked off, no glance back.